The lesson.
Oh yeah.
King XL,
Peace.
thanks for coming down all the way from was it Dandenong?
Yeah, southeast.
Now you've been around Melbourne for quite a while, involved in the hip hop thing. I think the first time we met was at the Stretch and Babito
Oh yeah.
screening premiere in Adelaide.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, prior to that, I wasn't really, too familiar, I guess, with your involvement in the culture here in Australia.
Yeah.
To my understanding, you were the founder of Zulu Nation Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, involved with many people. Well, actually, it was a couple other brothers. That was Farouz, and he met up with Bambaataa when they came on tour, and they wanted to start a chapter here in Australia. And yeah, I came on. I got requested to join and help the brothers out. And yeah, so I was there, and Farouz ran the chapter for a few months, and then yeah.
Now, I imagine, obviously, to be approached to be involved in something like that, you've obviously had significant prior involvement in the culture.
Yeah, I was, well, for starters, I was already a member of Zulu Nation. I have got my application back in 1992 when I was in New York at the NMS. So for me, coming back from New York around 92 was a time when we wanted to do a release, and we're really motivated, and we're doing tracks, and I'm sure they were really whacked back then, but for us it was just being involved in the culture, and one thing led to another, and we ended up doing shows, and then we decided let's record a record, so we recorded it.
So that record, Organized Rhym Productions.
Yeah.
So I guess before we even talk about that,
Yeah.
take us back like before
Further?
that, when you first got involved
With the culture?
I guess, yeah, with the culture here in Australia.
Big Apple Rappin was the first record I ever heard on Detroit Records by the D. It was more of a disco sort of rap sort of record, and that was the first thing that ever influenced me. And it was around 81 as a kid, and then there was really nothing around where I was living at that time, out in the eastern suburbs, and so it was like that really had a big part on where I wanted to go, because I really liked the rap. And then I remember when the Buffalo Girls and the Rocket came out, and, we saw the film clips, and it was like, this is amazing, and it sort of took off from there, so we started to try and learn how to do all these elements, the b-boy and the graffiti and etc. And I think that's what predominantly ran wild in Melbourne, especially, was more the graph and the b-boy in the early days. And at the same time as all that, my mother was musical background, so for me, I guess it's in my blood, to the music side of things. So I ended up getting more involved into the DJ side of things. And after seeing like Buffalo Girls with the turntables and things like that, and Rocket, I really wanted to get into it. But at the same time as that was happening, I was playing Euro music, because hip hop wasn't really well known, or music wasn't really happening here at the time. And most of the clubs at that time were playing like Euro dance music sort of thing, Italian type music. And so we'd learn how to beat mix, the old fashioned way, count your beats and things like that. And so that was very heavily a part of my life as well, learn how to beat mix. So that sort of like having that background of how to time records and mix and blending, that sort of helped when I got into the hip hop. I was able to mix records, a lot easier than just putting them on and going record to record. I used to beat mix records and things like that. So for me, it went from there, and b-boying, and I figured that I couldn't do windmills very well. So I said, no, I can't do that. But for many of us, we didn't sort of pick one element and say, yeah, I'm going to be that, and that's it. For us, we got involved in all of it. We embraced all the elements, and whatever we could do or be a part of was hip hop. To us, hip hop was all those elements, so we wanted to be involved with all those elements. And so that's where it went for me. You know, I couldn't b-boy in that. But eventually I collected records from the early 80s, and then it just sort of led to another thing. I started DJing more. And it wasn't until, I think, 87 that I had a friend who was, he was a really good piano player, and he was into production, and we met up, and he said, let's make some music in his garage, and he actually taught me how to use a sampler. He was a very gifted guy, you know. He could just hear something and play it, you know, and he was good with gear. So he taught me a lot, about 87, and then after seeing that, then I was really interested in making the music side of it. I was like, wow, this is great, we can create stuff. And I remember when AKA Brothers dropped their first 12, that's when we were starting to do demos and stuff in the garage, and we're like, yeah, we need to do that too. But that got me heavily involved with the production side of things from then on. And then making the beats, etc. So then it was like, and at the same time as doing that, I picked up the mic. See, I was in a group of guys, and we said we're going to release something, but no one wanted to be the MC. We had a whole group of guys, we're all DJs. And we're like, yeah, but who's going to be the MC? And look, honestly, we just draw sticks, the straws. And I didn't have to do it. There's another guy who got the short straw, who's going to be the MC. And I turned around and said, look, don't worry about it, save the argument, I'll do it, you know. So I didn't want to do it, but I did it. And to be involved, you know, and to sort of push us and move us forward somehow. And so, yeah, so I started picking up, you know, the mic and start writing lyrics, and yeah, that's how it went down. So
are those recordings out there somewhere?
You know, I couldn't tell you, because the guy that taught me, that mentored me to produce and part of our crew, he actually, unfortunately, passed away many years ago. So I have no idea any recordings left. He would have had them, you know, on 4-track. We used to hire the 4-track, you know, from Troy's Music and record on it, and then take it back on the Monday. You know, we had no money, you know, no gear, only little bits and pieces. But we got by, and then we did a few gigs, I think. And the first gig that we ever did was at a pub up in the sticks, and we got on stage we only had to do 3 tracks. After the second track, people were throwing beer bottles at us, and they were glass bottles then, and they were also coming up requesting Jimmy Barnes, AC/DC. Do we do requests, you know? And this crowd was real country, you know, so we made a choice. We either pack it up now and go, or we come back and do the last track and stick it in there. And I said, I'm sticking in there, we can't give up now, you know, this is for the culture. You know, this is what we want to do, this is what we love. And that's what we did. We went back out there and we did it. You know, it didn't get a lot of love, but we did it, you know. And then one thing later on, we just kept going, progressing. And I think when I came back from New York, I met another guy at a nightclub. You know, I rolled up down there and I met these guys, DJ Effects and this other guy, Diz, who ended up joining up with myself, and we did the Organized Rhym Productions. And that same year before we recorded that, we're doing some tracks. He organised just somehow through a promoter, we got the support for Beastie Boys, Check Your Head tour. Yeah, we did the support with Sound Unlimited posse and DJ Ransom on the decks. This is at Chevron, I think it is, in St Kilda Road, or it used to be. Yeah, we did the support show there.
So this is what, like early 90s?
92. Yeah, 92, 93, somewhere around. 92, yeah, because we hadn't released the record yet. So, yeah, and then after that, following the hype of all that, we went hard and went in the studio, and I started working with these guys, producing beats, making some tracks, what they felt, you know, and I did most of the production on the whole EP. Besides, I think the Diz, I did a little bit of production with his track, but yeah, that's how that went down.
So that's the Organized Rhym Production EP?
Yeah, that was the Organized Rhym Production.
So that was you just producing and then other dudes spitting rhymes over the top?
Yeah, and myself. So it was my crew, which consisted of myself and DJ Cash, and then there was another brother, Diz, and then another brother, Raid, which is Do Days on the record, and he's, and then there was also another guy, Rhyme, and it was the 5 of us. and we collected, and we wanted to bring out a 12-inch single, but we all had different ideas for what sort of sound we wanted to do. So we decided, let's do an EP, a track each, and then we do one posse track at the end with different styles for each rapper, you know. And yeah, so I produced the posse track and most of all my tracks except for the diss track. I think he produced that.
And there's still a few copies of that floating around?
Yeah, there's a few, not a lot, because a lot got bought out back in the day, but you know, I still got a few in the collection, you know.
Now tell us a little bit about what it was like, I guess, putting out, you know, a piece of hip hop vinyl.
It was great, because before that everything was cassette tapes. And this is, you know, we're talking about before really CD was popular to record on because it was expensive. So for us it was like, you know, when I came back from New York, that's when it all really started to take off, you know, in a right direction, because that really had a big influence on where I wanted to go, you know. After going to New York for the, you know, was it the second time, or attending the NMS, meeting all these people that, you know, they're your mentors, and then actually getting to actually, you know, chat with them and hang out. It was like, you know, amazing, you know. I mean, I've got so many stories just on that alone. Came back really heavily influenced and did the record, you know. Once we did the record, then it was just about, you know, doing vinyl. We wanted to do vinyl because everyone could do a tape, but how many people had vinyl out? You know, we saw AKA Brothers had the vinyl, and we wanted to do vinyl too, because to us, that's hip hop as well, you know, the vinyl. And so we pulled our money together to release the 12-inch. So I think we did 500 copies. That was it. And yeah.
And then, so how many pieces of vinyl was sort of like Aussie hip hop vinyl were floating around before you guys?
Okay, so you had AKA Brothers, you had Park Bench Royals, I think it was. You had Mama's Funk, and various others as well, you know. But these were vinyl that were out there, and you know, Mama's Funk would go. I think they were going on their second vinyl when our vinyl was coming out. So, which was the Funkstickle Theory, and then our record came out around the same time, but we sort of postponed a little bit because, you know, back then there was not a lot of competition, so everybody sort of knew everybody back in those days, and it was kind of like everyone got along well. We all, you know, because there was not like, you know, 20 clubs of playing whatever, and this guy's go there and this guy. For us, it was like, this is where the night is. We all go that night, you know. So we all knew each other. So it was kind of not an unspoken thing, but it was more about just a given that, you know, these guys, let's help push that, and then when our record comes out, it gets pushed as well, you know, and that's how things went. So yeah, that was our community back then.
The lesson. Oh yeah.